Oh. Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. When I was growing up, my favorite television show was The Simpsons. I appreciated the sarcasm. And a characteristic saying of one of the main characters, Homer, is duh. Yes, have you heard this? D-U-H, like duh. Some of your kids may tell you that when you make observations about life. And so now when I think of duh, having tried to study Bhagavad Gita, I think of the ladder of fall. The ladder of fall contains 4 does, and each one becomes more intense. How does one start falling down this ladder? This starts with distraction. Distraction pulls attachment. That's the first duh. The next, attachment pulls desire, which pulls anger. That's the second duh. Now it's more serious. Anger pulls delusion, which is packaged with amnesia. One forgets what one is supposed to do. That's the third duh. And the fourth is devolution and annihilation. This word devolution is powerful. It's de-evolution, but it sounds like becoming the devil. Yes? And one is annihilated. That's where one forgets who they are. While we were in our youth camp in London, I had engaged all the students in an exercise on introspection, detection, negation, and substitution. And this was personal to them. Only they could see their own writing. But then I asked some of them to share which vice is causing them the most harm, and so in turn causing those around them the most harm. And it was surprising to me that vice was anger. I was thinking about a 13-year-old, a 16-year-old has responsibilities, but not like a typical 40 and 50-year-old. Yet anger has creeped into their personality and is harming them. If anger is the disease, then the medicine is acceptance. And acceptance comes from being guided in acceptance, being trained in acceptance, being supported in acceptance. All of us are tuned into this ever-present guidance. And I, of course, mean that metaphysically, but I do mean that physically too. What do you really need to do to access meaningful mornings? Your computer is already on. I hope you're already awake. You don't have to do anything. If there's guidance in our life, where did that guidance come from? God's radiation. I had shared that yesterday, that what does God radiate? Grace. And what does grace feel like? Guidance. What does guidance feel like? Acceptance. What does acceptance feel like? Not being angry. When we were in the ashram, someone had asked Pujya Swami Tejavayananda, how do you know if you're a successful teacher? This, of course, is in the context of Vedanta, happiness. And his response was, you are a successful teacher if your student loves Bhagwan more. If the presence of Bhagwan is more revealed to them. Another word for Bhagwan, divinity. Now, he didn't say this, but an equivalent gauge of success is if one loves bhagya more. Bhagya means self-development, means yoga, to be a better person. For a typical youth, when I use a word like Bhagwan, they don't relate to that. But if I change it to bhagya, which means being more disciplined, being more cheerful, that they can relate to, they're equivalent. We use the word map. To love divinity more, to love the map more. Then one is a successful, and forget about the word teacher, caregiver. Are you invoking that love in your own heart? Are you evoking that love in the hearts around you? That is what success is. And how meaningful this is. The catalyst in such success is a Sadguru, one's guide. Why? Another question someone had asked Puja Guruji. How does one become a bhakta? And his response, live with bhaktas. If you associate with bhaktas, those who love divinity in the map, you too will start to love the same. A guide is an audio-visual reference for what it means to live a life of dedication. And it's not a dedication to them, as into themselves. That's ordinary. By default, we do that. But to break free from being dedicated to oneself, to being dedicated to one's family, that too is ordinary. That's our default. Think about if you had $1,000, how much of that would you spend on a family vacation versus how much of that would you express your gratitude? I find that to be a good overt test of your dedication. To be dedicated to the community, society, humanity. Continuing with this thought of grace and guidance, in verse 47, Shri Krishna shares with Prince Arjuna, you are experiencing my grace. How? And he uses the word, maya prasanna. Not because of you, but because of me. In verse 48, he shares the words aham shakya. I am only possible because of me. In verse 52, sudur darshanam. What you are understanding and seeing is difficult. You don't have that strength. It is because of me. In verse 53, na aham shakya. It is not because of your ability. It is because of my nature, that is God, that radiates grace. And finally, in verse 54, Sri Krishna introduces a new ends word, like a finality, praveshtum, which means to enter. To enter into Sri Krishna. The terminology for us is to understand Sri Krishna, the evolution of that to see Sri Krishna, but the finality is to be Sri Krishna. And so this is not poetic for us. How does understanding happen? How is this facilitated? Bhaja, which means expressing dedication, starts off with singing and seeking. If you do this, understanding will be checked off. More intense is to support and serve. This is where you're actually sacrificing your resources, your time. Then seeing will be checked off. All of this, though, is for the trajectory of being Sri Krishna. And that happens through surrender. Surrendering one's individuality. In these verses from 47 to right now, Sri Krishna is trying to make Prince Arjuna and us feel special. That you are a bhakta, but that's not enough. He's challenging us to understand Sri Krishna as the greatest, but to be Sri Krishna is godliness. In Meaningful Mornings, you being in this community, you are already great. And unfortunately, the world tells you that, and so we think that's good enough. But a healthy community is one that challenges you to be the greatest. That's what we're trying to do too, to understand Sri Krishna. But finally, to be Sri Krishna, that is godliness. And this is shared very clearly in the final verse of chapter 11. On March 19th, 2020, we commenced Meaningful Mornings. We commenced this when the coronavirus was a wildfire in our world. I was just checking. Since that period, approximately 760 million people have been infected with the coronavirus. How many of you have had COVID? I would say more than 50% of us. And that's only documented cases, of which almost 7 million people have died. That too, documented. What else has happened since March 19th of 2020? Today we will complete 469 verses of Bhagavad Gita. If you divide that out by 700, this is exactly 67%, or 2/3 of Bhagavad Gita. If we were all to die in the next 10 minutes, the verses to hold on to while you're dying are in chapter 9, verse 34. That is the last verse of the chapter. In chapter 11, verse 55. The last verse of this chapter. I'll chant this in a slow way so you can see the overt practices that Sri Krishna is encouraging. Mat karma krit, mat paramaha, mad bhaktaha, sangha varjitaha, nirvera sarva bhuteshu, yassa mameti pandava. Replace the word pandava with your name. In this verse, 5 practices are given. The vision, Mameti, to be Sri Krishna. Mam, to belong to Sri Krishna. If that's the vision, here is our actions. Mat, karma, krit. It is to act for Sri Krishna. Put simply, it is to love the means. Practice number 1. Next, mat paramaha. That is to feel that Sri Krishna is the ends, the highest, the purpose. Put simply, it is to love the ends. Love the means, love the ends. Then, madbhaktaha, it is to just love. Bhakti is where you love for the sake of love, not for any other reason. Think lots about this. Why is this practice 3? Practice 2 is to love the ends, or to love for freedom, but beyond that is to just love. Those are positive actions. Now we drift into what not to do. Sangha varjitaha, which means to be detached or independent. As you're doing this, don't do this for a result. A way to think about this: if in your heart there's asakti, then in your heart there cannot be bhakti. You can't be attached and dedicated. The word is not and, but or. You are either attached or dedicated, but not both. Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu, which means not to dislike any being. Not just specific to humans, but also animals, plants, stones. That's why in the next hour, I will facilitate a camp called Hinduism equals environmentalism. It is not to dislike any animal. If Vivek eats an animal, that would be the same as me disliking an animal. If I eat you, that would be the same as me disliking you, no? How can I eat you and like you? Sharing this in a different visual way. In your heart, you can either have raga or rama, but not both. Raga means likes, dislikes, or rama, which means to be beyond this. Mam eti, the word eti, it means to come. And the fuller meaning of this is eti gacchati sarvatra. Eti gacchati sarvatra means oneness. Oneness is that which goes to all, is all. What is the theme of chapter 11? Presence. It is Sri Krishna's presence that is in all, is all. I will review this again and engage in our Sankalpa Vakya tomorrow morning. To application, your application was to continue to prepare for our party tomorrow. Chapter 11 completion, year 3 completion, winter's completion. Pujya Tejamayana had shared with us, there is a significant difference between cheap and free. What is the difference? With cheap, you're not active. When an offering is free, you appreciate this, and so you are active. Is Meaningful Mornings cheap or free depends on you. Do you apply yourself? And so the application for this morning is to continuing, making something for our party. Today is special because it's been 1 month since our Dedicating to Devi challenge. I hope you're registered for that and you're active with this. Today has been 10 days since registration for installing balance was announced. I hope you've registered and are spreading the word to your family, friends, co-students, co-workers. And again, if anyone is feeling dakshina, gratitude in their heart, and they wish to express this as dana, then please offer this towards the repair of Chinmayadhara, our ashram in Niagara Falls. I received lovely news yesterday night that we will be able to own our ashram, our communal home in Cleveland next week. And I'll be arriving into Cleveland on Thursday. So amazing how Sri Krishna is supporting all of us. Support back. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.